First part of February 2018 has many twists and turns. 2 eclipses, debilitated moon passing over Mars, moon passing over Saturn in Sagittarius. The Combust Venus continues through Capricorn, then into Aquarius. A lot of changes around relationships and your own identity. So check this out. So this is the reading for February 2018. I'm actually starting here on January 31st, 2018, because we have a lunar eclipse on that date, and that's going to be big, of course, because we have this eclipse in the sign of Cancer, and I'm going to do a more extensive report on that. But so the last day of January, we have this lunar eclipse, which is going to really, it's opposite the sun in Capricorn, which shows where we're trying to align and harmonize our inner, need for structure, stability, and control, consistency with other people and family and less practical concerns, which is the Cancer side of the equation. So this will be sort of right at the beginning of the month, or even right before the first day of the month. So February 1st is the day after that, and we're going to see, as a general trend, we're going to see the sun move from Capricorn into Aquarius. The solar emphasis moves each month. There's really like a solar emphasis. There's an emphasis on a particular solar sign. This is what the months are. They actually estimate how far the sun moves in one lunation cycle, 30 days. The sun moves into another section, and there are 12 throughout the year. 12 30-degree sections, and the 30-degree sections are based on the lunation cycles, because there are 12 of them each year. And of course, the way we divide that sky in Vedic astrology is, of course, sidereally, based on the exact ecliptic coordinates, not based on the seasons. We already consider the sun and moon as creating the cycle. So, but in between the Capricorn and the Aquarius cycle in February, so you see we start with the sun very close to K2 the south node, which is showing that eclipse. Venus and Mercury are also joined. And what happens is Mars and Jupiter are in Libra. Jupiter's going to go to around the end of Libra, then Mars is going to go to right around the end of Scorpio by the end of the month. And so you see these first couple days of February, we have Moon in Leo, Magha, Purva Falguni, and then by the middle of the day, this is actually London time in the middle of the day, so it's right in the middle of each day, sort of Greenwich Mean Time. So again, the middle of February 3rd, then the moon moves into Virgo. So again, the first part of the month is going to be quite fiery, that whole Leo sort of energy. So there will be an emphasis on your individuality, your individual personality, less about your relationships and partners and all of that. Of course, it's right after that eclipse I just mentioned, so there's a lot of Cancer energy, but you'll be wanting to reclaim a lot of your own, or feel a lot of your own fiery self on the 1st and 2nd. Then on the 3rd, of course, in the middle of the day on the 3rd, and then 4th and 5th, the moon is in Virgo. And so moon in Virgo is, of course, it's ruled by Mercury, and it's about reflecting and internalizing your experiences, and all of that power from Leo becomes a lot of tasks and structure in Virgo. Leo is the inspired purpose. It's sort of like the kingdom that we want to create. Virgo is all the tasks and details that we need to organize that kingdom. And as you can see, the moon's moving into these different nakshatras. By the way, I do a daily forecast literally every day where I break down the sign, the nakshatra, the tithi or the lunar phase. Of course, the full moon is a lunar phase, and then also aspects and whatnot every day. So you can have access to that as well. But we can tell a lot just by the moon changing signs. Again, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, for the most part, the moon is in Virgo. Much more organized sort of structure. You also see that Venus is right at the edge of Capricorn. So you'll be feeling that kind of transition with Venus in between Capricorn and Aquarius. So this is the sort of transition between the internal structure of of Capricorn and Aquarius. Did I say that? Venus is in Capricorn, it's about to go into Aquarius. So that inner structure and solitude and seriousness of Capricorn, hopefully as Venus has gone through, you have gotten serious about your partners, serious about your relationships, refocused, reconnected, recommitted to either being in it or maybe needing some space to get away and sort it all out. That's big with Venus going through Capricorn, particularly because Venus was combust and is still combust at this time. It's still very close to on the other side of the sun. I did a recent video about this. I know you probably watch everybody's videos. Mine's one of a million videos, but go back and look at the one where I talked about combustion of Venus. Venus is still combust, so we're still kind of touchy and irritated perhaps with our partners a little bit, and that we're not feeling respected and appreciated that much. Again, so Venus, its entire transit through Capricorn, pretty much, well, not pretty much, but it has been combust, very close to the sun. So now we're taking that thing we've been thinking about or reflecting on, and that need for distance and space, maybe because we're feeling irritated and unappreciated by partners, and that's about to go into Aquarius. As you see here on February 5th, it's in that last degree. And then if we step forward, you see the next day, by February 6th, Moon has gone into Aquarius. Venus has gone into Aquarius. Moon has gone into Libra, where it's going to be for the next couple of days, joined Jupiter. And you can see that, you know, this could be a kind of reset here on February 6th and 7th. It's going to feel like a whole new kind of Libra energy, a whole new kind of Venus energy. Okay, Aquarius is not as serious and worried and stressed out as Capricorn. It's still ruled by Saturn, but it's the externalized, expanded part of Saturn where we want to share our Venus with the world, if you want to look at it that way. So it's going to be less personal, more universal for the next several weeks. So starting, February 6th, February 7th, we'll feel that shift around our Venus. Now, of course, part of the reason is also because the moon goes into Libra and it'll be joined Jupiter. So this moon Jupiter in Libra will show this focus on, again, on perhaps partnerships and partners and whatnot, but it's joined Jupiter, which usually brings some life lessons and things that we have learned and that we, again, we'd like to share. Jupiter is a gracious energy. So maybe you want to share some recent relationship lessons, or you want to just share with your partners more. It doesn't have to be romantic relationships. It can just be about interacting with other people. You're just going to feel more willing to share and wanting to share with Moon now in Libra, join Jupiter, and Venus in Aquarius. But what happens though is when the Moon is in Libra, it's also getting close to its debilitation point in Scorpio. By the way, one of the reasons is because, the Moon has a kind of uneasy relationship with Venus, because Moon is about selfless love and that emotional openness. Libra is really about boundaries and about conditions and navigating adult relationships. Most relationships we have are Venus in nature, Venus-y, where there's, again, mutual respect, accommodation, compromise. Hey, I said that to you and you weren't very polite, all that. None of that has to do with the Moon. We feel it in the Moon, because the Moon is how we feel things. So when someone's not polite to us, it's the Moon part of us that feels it. Because the Moon wants to have everything as one, where we sense the unity consciousness. And Venus, we often sense the sort of separate way that we're being treated and all like that. So with the moon, we just want everything to flow. So just like, for instance, a mother doesn't feel hurt when a little child doesn't appreciate her effort. When a little baby doesn't say thank you because you changed their diaper, we don't feel offended because the little baby doesn't know better. But as the baby gets older, becomes someone who can understand manners, then we expect them to have manners. And that's where the Venus comes in. So Moon starts to feel, it starts to really notice all those boundaries in Libra. And then the vulnerabilities of Scorpio show why the debilitation point is there. Because after we notice all of those different, possible relating styles, and they all feel kind of different in the moon, Scorpio is where it becomes very serious, and even where we feel a lot of emotional vulnerability, and we can feel abused and mistreated, and you didn't treat me well, so now I'm going to lash back out at you, or I got to protect myself from you, or now I'm going to, tell you what you did wrong, and get into this kind of emotional conflict. So this is why the moon winds up debilitated in Scorpio after the Libra relationship that we notice and how it feels. In Scorpio, we need to protect ourselves, and we'll be experiencing that February 8th and 9th and into the 10th. As you see, now this one is particularly interesting because the moon is very close to Mars. February 8th, especially February 9th, it's February 8th and 9th. Moon's not only in its debilitated sign of Scorpio, but it's with Mars. So really be careful of blow-ups on February 8th, 9th, and 10th. Right? Because Moon has joined Mars, and you might want to be avenging things that were done to you that weren't fair. It wasn't fair. Isn't that what we say? It wasn't fair, Libra. So now I'm going to let you have it. Which could be Scorpio, especially with Mars there. February 8th, 9th, and 10th. 8th, 9th, and 10th, be very careful of that sort of avenging nature and wanting to avenge the great injustices. And again, you might feel the injustices, the personal injustice, when the moon goes through Libra, literally. Because Jupiter is the planet of justice and injustice, both. You want to see the range. It's not just justice, it's injustice. Because if something is just, something else is unjust. So again, this could be a tricky little transit. February 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. And then, from the frying pan maybe into the fire, then after the 10th, 11 and 12, Moon is in Sagittarius, but it's joined Saturn. So Saturn in Sagittarius has us being really focused on what inspires us, trying to get really clear about that level of integrity and authenticity around our teachings and what we're motivated toward. When the moon joins Saturn, though we feel like internal, and we don't feel as generous, we don't feel as willing and as interested in sharing and all of that stuff, and wanting to, we're focused a lot more on our own self-preservation, so to speak. Saturn is a Tamasic planet. So these couple of days, and I would say particularly on the 11th, when it's in Mula and it crosses over and is right on top of Saturn, February 11th could definitely be, a day where there could be some emotional explosiveness even after the moon goes through Scorpio with Mars, where it could also be emotionally explosive. It could continue on the 11th because of Moon Saturn in Sagittarius, sort of all fired up around your principles, and then February 12th as well. Now you see the Sun, and especially here also on the 11th and 12th, the Sun is right at the edge, about to change signs. See, the Sun is right in between Capricorn and Aquarius. It changes on the 13th, and the moon goes into Capricorn. So we're getting right near the eclipse now which happens on this day. On February 15th, we have the eclipse. See planets moving here, but on February 13, 14, 15, the moon is mainly in Aquarius, and it's joined Ketu, and it's very close to being eclipsed. So again, the moon is very dark at this point. We can't really see it in the sky. So our mind gets really dark and sort of heavy. It's in Capricorn, which is also about feeling like the emotional pressure. It's very good though for, again, solitude, introspection, meditation, spiritual practice. It's actually quite good for that. You might say, oh yeah, but it feels so bad. It feels bad if you don't know how to meditate. If you have a lot of stuff around you that's really cluttering up your headspace, a lot of BS all around you in your life, because then you got to deal with all of that, and it's hard to deal with it. But when you block that out and you simplify, and you're like, all right, I'm not going to deal with all of that, then you tune in to something else. It pulls you right into it. So you want to understand this. This is why it's good for those things. When I say it's good for, when I give a directive that something is good for meditation, for example, I literally mean that if you meditate that day, it's going to be very good. Not just that's the only thing that's going to bring any relief, because everything else will be horrible. So I'm trying to make a distinction that we tend to think that only suffering builds character and whatnot. And when we're suffering, we should just try to meditate and get through it. Sometimes it's just really good. And in fact, these lunar days, especially the 14th lunar day, when the moon starts getting really dark, those are actually good days for really tuning in to spirit. There's a couple days every month. The Ekadashi, which is the 11th lunar day. Usually 13th, 14th, and 15th lunar days, especially the waning moon, are very good for connecting to spirit, because the external world gets really hard to manage. We get sick of it as these lunation cycles reset, also right before full moons. So when you know this, you can plan for it, and you can start to minimize your tasks on those days if you can. Or the people around you can also realize that, especially if you're surrounded by people who understand these things, these cycles, then you can all support each other. So especially February 14th and 15th, the moon's very close to Ketu, it's close to being eclipsed. 15th is the eclipse day, especially in sign of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, which again is good for meditation.